Okay, welcome to Stat 510. This is in particular Stat 510 section B1 for the fall 2020 semester. My name is David Delpiez. Hello, I'll be the instructor of this course. Many of you have dealt with me before in Stat 432, but if you're new, welcome. If you're a repeat customer, welcome back. I'm a teaching assistant professor with the Department of Statistics. I also did my graduate work at the University of Illinois, so not only am I teaching this course, I've also done this course as a student before. So despite the fact that this is my first time in this course, I do have some experience. But that's way too much about me. So the purpose of this video will be just to essentially I'm going to more or less read through the syllabus, not like actually read it through word for word, but read through it as a way to talk through all the things that you need to know about the class and talk through the things that we're going to do in the class. I'll probably ramble. It'll probably be a long video. If you're bored, watch it at 1.5 speed. Okay, so first thing you need to know, I suppose, is that this is the website for the course. Hopefully you've already seen an email from me with that bit of information, but if not, actually, I don't know how you'd be watching this video if you didn't know that. So anyway, so the website looks like this. We'll probably talk through it a little bit more in a minute. But like any first day of class, I want to talk about the syllabus. Okay, so syllabus, pretty long, but it'll be worth going through all of this. Okay, so before we actually get to the syllabus content itself, we need to put a big disclaimer over all of this, which is that Stat 510 section B1 is not intended for PhD students in the Department of Statistics. They need to take section A1 because that course will be taught by the instructor who is helping write the questions for the qualifying exams. So if you're a PhD student, register for this class, you're in the wrong class. For everyone else, the idea of this course would be that it's directly targeted at master students in the Department of Statistics who do not plan to go for a PhD or do not otherwise plan to take the follow-up course, Stat 511. So the both level and maybe more so content of the course will be different than section A1, which would be appropriate if you're currently a PhD student, plan to someday be a PhD student, or simply would like to take Stat 511. So everyone else, this class makes sense for you, but those classes, especially PhD students, absolutely need to be in section A1. Okay, this is becoming less relevant, but technically everything here is tentative. We'll get to the end of the syllabus, which says it's all liable to change, and you should check it occasionally, but I'll keep you informed. Okay, we already talked about this. You probably already know this. We're online this semester. If anyone's watching this video years later, this was at least one of the COVID semesters. Okay, course staff. 2 people in this course staff. Myself, you already met me. Also Shen Yan, that you haven't met yet, but you will meet in office hours and Piazza. More on that later. A minor note about that. If you call me professor, be like, hey, professor. That's kind of weird, right? You're not calling me my name, you're calling me my title. So maybe I would say, hey, student, back to you, which is weird. So you can just use my name, which is David. You don't need to call me professor. You don't need to call me doctor. You can just call me David, Dave. Either's fine. Shen goes by Shen. Call us our names. We have names. we're people. We're not just professors. Okay. Anyway, course content. So this is what's written into the course catalog, which is always a little bit kind of out of date because, classes get tweaked over time and that is what changes. These are roughly the topics that we're going to cover. But more importantly, what we're going to cover is all of statistics, which I think is hilarious, but also kind of our goal. So the book we're going to use, which we're going to see in a second, is the book titled All of Statistics by Larry Wasserman. And what this book essentially attempts to do is cover all of statistics. I'm kind of not kidding. So we're not going to cover the whole book, but we're going to cover a lot of it. And in particular, the sections that are sort of foundational to everything you'll do later in statistics, mostly a bit of probability, and then a lot of statistics. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second when we open up the book. But in terms of the book for the course, I actually list 5 books. You do not need to buy any books. Do not buy any books. Please don't spend any money on books. I've never had anyone spend money on books, and I hope to never do that. Okay, so our main textbook that's going to sort of drive the pace, the content of the course, and from which I'll sort of derive my own lectures, is this All of Statistics by Larry Wasserman, which in other sources I will just refer to as LW for that book. So that's kind of the main book. I guess you could say that you could complete this course only ever looking at that book, although that won't be recommended. But that's the main text of this book, of this course. It is not free, unlike all the other ones I'm about to list. However, it will be free to you as a student of the University of Illinois. More on that in a second. This next book, Probability Statistics, the Science of Uncertainty. I actually have a copy of it. It looks like this. Don't get this. Don't buy it. These authors were nice enough to put their entire book online for free. Wonderful. So this book is maybe not at the exact correct level of difficulty for this course. It's maybe a little bit more targeted at undergraduate students, but we'll use it mostly for practice problems along the way. So nicely, there's a ton of exercises in this book, and the odd number questions, for the most part, have solutions in the back of the book. So with each graded homework that we do in this class, I'll assign a bunch of problems from this book, say, hey, refresh your memory by doing these type of problems. So this will be a nice free resource for us. Okay. Another book that I sort of feel contractually obligated to occasionally reference is this Mathematical Statistics Old School by John Martin, who was one of my professors in grad school, whose notes more or less got me through grad school. And he has this wonderful, also free book online. This text is maybe a little above the level of this class, so it's maybe more directly targeted at PhD students who are preparing for a qualifying exam. But we will occasionally reference it for additional reading, maybe an exercise here or there. It won't be a main text of the course, but because it's an Illinois-developed resource that has helped so many students, I think you should know about it. These other two books, I kind of just list because they're books that come up a lot. So the first one, Casella Berger, looks like this. If there was a book that, for mathematical statistics, that was most popular, like that had been seen by the most number of statistics graduate students, here it is. So, boy, I'm bad at mirrors. Yeah, something like that. So, if you want to, oh, sorry, this is definitely not free. But you can get one of these paperbacks on Amazon for not too much. It's a nice book to sit on a bookshelf and reference occasionally. I just list it because it's so popular. So if you go on and talk about mathematical statistics coursework somewhere else, someone will probably be like, oh, I use Casella Berger. Well, so now you're aware of it. This last one I reference just because anyone who took Stat 410 coming through the Illinois system would have used this book, and it can be a nice reference. Okay, cool. So, right. So back to our main textbook, Wasserman's All of Statistics, not free. However, if we click this link here, it'll take us to the University of Illinois library. I apparently have already logged in. And then, yeah, you just download a PDF, and now you have the book. Wonderful. I think you just need to log into the library through like the usual Illinois single sign-on. If that doesn't work, I think you need to be on the VPN. If anyone runs into trouble acquiring the book, let me know immediately. You're going to want access to this book. looking at something real quick. So this picture is going to come up a few times when we're sort of thinking about at a high level of what we're doing. Hopefully you've seen more or less that picture before somewhere in your studies, but we'll talk about this. So talking through the content really quickly. So traditionally Stat 510 is, an introduction to mathematical statistics. So you jump right into statistics. One change that I'm sort of doing this semester is we're going to spend a little bit of time on probability, which will amount to 2 or 3 weeks maximally, mostly as a review to sort of like get us where we need to be to dive into statistical inference. So these first 2 chapters, that'll be our first week of content. So we're not going to cover these in depth, but I'm going to, touch on, the important definitions and theorems that you should have seen from these, and we'll be off to the races doing exercises to refresh our memory. Sort of similarly, chapters 3, 4, and 5 we'll go through pretty quickly, maybe 2 weeks between the 3 of them at most. Again, roughly all of these should be things you should have seen before, but it doesn't hurt to refresh, so that you're not having to go back while simultaneously learning something else. Okay, so the real purpose of the course is to talk about this section 2 here in the book. So chapter 6 here sort of outlines what we're going to be doing more or less, and then chapter 9 and 10 are sort of the heart of a traditional course in this topic. But one of the reasons I've selected this book is because it actually begins with non-parametric inference instead of parametric inference. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So these chapters 7 and 8 will make a big part of the course in terms of putting a little bit more of a modern spin on a really classic subject area. Chapters 11 and 12 are a little bit more optional, but currently the plan is to cover them. We could potentially swap them out for something in section 3 here, but we'll talk about that along the way and sort of make some decisions there. But I have a feeling we'll likely stick with 11 and 12 unless there's a strong suggestion otherwise. Okay, so that's a bit about content. Oh, more about content. Bottom line, I'm trying to make it so we're kind of going to start from the beginning of probability and statistics and then go very, 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 very fast. So I guess in theory, as long as you have like the math background, you'd be fine if you're willing to put in a ton of work. But the expectation is that you've had 2 semesters of calculus-based mathematical statistics before. We don't expect you to retain every little bit of it, but the prior exposure to that will go a long way in terms of being able to complete this course. Okay, so now to some more logistics-based stuff. If you've had a course with me before, you can tune this out and skip ahead. So basically, we're online, right? So communicating is a little bit more difficult. I guess I should say, if it wasn't clear already, this class will be asynchronous. So I'm recording videos, posting them, you watch them at your own pace. But so there's no communication there. I just have to talk at you, unfortunately. In terms of two-way communication, there's sort of 3 ways we can do that, ordered by preference here. So my number 1 hope is that we have some very productive office hours in this class. The class is very small, and the class is also more or less spread across 2 hemispheres. So it's kind of like we have 2 really small classes. So between myself and Shen, we're going to do some really sort of maybe odd times for office hours, more than that later. He's graciously agreed to do some very late at night for Champaign office hours that will hopefully help you on the other side of the globe. So, given that we should have small numbers, like 4 hours of office hours between the 2 of us, hopefully we utilize those resources really well. So do come to office hours. Beyond that, Piazza, it's sort of the standard for online classes. I think given the nature of this class, it'll be less useful than some other classes, but we'll still use it. Especially, if anyone has sort of a low bandwidth situation, you're going to want to do that more than video related materials. And then as a last ditch effort, email us. More on that in a second. So office hours, here is our current schedule for those. This is subject to change depending on mine and Shen's availability, how you all feel about these times, what attendance is like, and things like that. But currently, this is the plan. They're on Zoom. I think at this point, everyone's probably a Zoom expert, so I don't need to tell anything about that. One note is that it's a really small class, and we're doing these 2-hour chunks at a time. So what we're going to say is in the last half hour, if no one's there, we might leave early unless you email us ahead of time saying like, oh, hey, I'm going to come in at the last 15 minutes. Like, we'll be there till the last minute and maybe even go late if a student's there. But if a student's not there, everyone's busy. We have stuff to do, so we might sort of go on with our lives. So just send us an email if you're going to be showing up sort of towards the tail end of an office hour. Blah, blah, blah. I said this. So sometimes you might have a private matter you need to discuss, maybe through a chat instead of like going back and forth in email. If you want to do that, send me an email, sort of suggest multiple times and multiple days, just so we don't have to go back and forth when scheduling. Piazza, I imagine many of you know the drill here. Use this link to register. Use this access code to get into the class. Also do this thing that the access code says. Please use your university email. I forget if it requires that or not. This is just a sentence that says we'll try our best to respond pretty quickly. I don't allow private or anonymous posting. So you can still post anonymously to your classmates, but not to me. There's reasons for that. I don't think it's going to be an issue in this class anyway, but we're going to maintain that policy. And then there's some notes on the Piazza forum itself about some guidelines for having a successful communication on Piazza. Okay, email policy. I'm just going to say read this. Hopefully we don't do a lot of emailing, but I'm very particular about email. Anyone that took my 432 with me is well aware of that. But part of this is due to student privacy concerns. Like as much as this helps me, this guards against some serious potential issues with email from students. So please do follow these guidelines. In particular, I don't answer emails about course-related information that does not come from an @illinois.edu course information. I'm not. There's reasons for that, mostly for your own protection. We don't need to get into it, but please use your Illinois account. Okay, here are those emails if you need to email us. Okay, so in terms of like what are you going to do in this class, right? So obviously you're going to watch videos of me lecturing. I should note that this video is going to be very different than the normal videos. The normal videos will be me on the iPad sort of mimicking what would normally happen on a board in a classroom, because this is a very math-based course, so I will be sort of writing mostly, not going through slides or web pages. I find that to be a much more, it seems to be a more engaging lecture, so that's sort of my style there. If you wanted to look at static images, you could just read the book. So I'll be rehashing some of the definitions and theorems from the book, but then also working examples because I find that to be the most sort of instructive thing. But that's what I'm going to do. So what are you going to do? You're going to do problems. So my thing is that one of the best ways to learn this stuff is to do as many problems as possible. So with that in mind, there's going to be 10 homework assignments. We're going to use Gradescope this semester. It's new to me, but talking to everyone about it, it seems to be very easy to use both from an instructor and a student perspective. So hopefully that goes well. When I go back to talking about the website, we'll look at the first homework and talk about that a little bit. But so homeworks will essentially be 10 problems apiece, but I'll also note a bunch of potential practice problems. And if anyone exhausts all of that, maybe I'll come up with some more. Because again, I think one of the best ways to do this stuff is by doing as many problems as possible. Right, so 10 homeworks. And then the other thing you're going to do are 2 exams. One is a midterm, one is a final. So We're going to use something called CBTF Online. And if you click that link and you read all this, you'll get a really good understanding of it. Bottom line, what the CBTF Online is, it's a way to proctor an exam through Zoom. So to you, doing the exam will feel exactly like doing a homework. You'll do it on paper or tech or something. You'll scan it. You'll upload it to Gradescope. It'll be exactly like doing a homework. The only difference is that a proctor from the University of Illinois, this is our own system, will be in a Zoom meeting with you and some other students. I don't want to use Proctorio. I don't want to use any of these third-party systems that you have to pay for. The Department of Statistics is paying for us to use this resource. It's developed locally in Illinois. The people in charge of it have put a lot of time, energy, and thoughtful care in creating this. So that's going to be what we do. I find it to be pretty non-invasive from a student perspective in terms of like, if we have to do online proctoring, this is the system. We'll talk about this a ton before the exam, but they have a ton of information for you to read through here. They're also still scrambling a little bit, updating some of this information and scheduling because this is a brand new service that they're trying to do a lot of people with. So expect me to roll out some additional information about this along the way. But our hope is that to you, the only difference between doing your homework and doing an exam is that you connect your telephone. You connect your smartphone to a Zoom call and have it pointed at your computer and you as you write an exam. Much more on that later. Okay. The first exam is scheduled already, October 12th at 7 p.m. Obviously, 7 p.m. is not a great time, depending on where you are in the world. The CBTF deals with conflict exams. So don't fret if you can't make this exact time, but more information later about how we'll deal with that. Then exam 2 is technically the final exam. But because this is an online course, we don't know when the final exam would be yet, so I can't tell you until that information is released. I forget when that comes out, but it's sometime mid-semester. Okay. But we don't have to worry about travel like normal because it's an online course. This is just I guess I can update this to say this. This is just an overview of the deadlines. Sort of more on this when I go look at the overall schedule on the course calendar. But it's essentially five weeks of homework, week to recap, week to do an exam, 5 weeks of homework, week to recap, week of exam, roughly. So we'll use Compass. Everyone should be in Compass as I record this video. If not, send me an email or you'll get automatically added when the roster updates go. Mostly throughout the semester, grades will be in Gradescope. Compass is there just because it's the devil I know in terms of gradebook, so I'll occasionally export grades from Gradescope into Compass, but also Compass so that I can use the announcement system, which will store recaps of the announcements that went back and also allow me to email out to the roster. It's honestly more for my convenience than yours. But you won't need to go there very often. Like, honestly, you could not go to Compass the whole semester and you'd be fine. But it will exist, so you need to know about it. I suppose somewhere in here I should have mentioned Gradescope under technology. I should update the syllabus, but that's fine. Okay, so in terms of weighting, something like this, because of the... So normally this weighting would be sort of inverted, but because this is my first time teaching the class, first time using CBTF Online, first time doing this online, and it's a COVID semester, I down-weighted the exams a little bit. But so in the future, this might be very different, but for now, this is how we're going to do it. Sort of the usual grading scale, other than I make it a little bit harder to get an A+ than normal, but that doesn't affect a GPA, so I feel like I can do what I want with it. Minor note that grading is not competitive, meaning there's no sort of curve. I have no mandate to give out a certain number of A's, B's, and C's and whatever. The only thing that would prevent me from giving out all A's is everyone in the class achieving the mastery of the content that gets them an A. I normally say that a statistical reality says it's not possible, but with such a small sample size, maybe it is, and let's see if we can make that happen. I have this note here about grade disputes. Basically, after you receive a grade, you have 1 week to question it. After that, you lose that right because I don't want everyone coming to me with all of their homeworks at the end of the semester saying, hey, review these because I need points. The other thing is you can't simply say, hey, please read grade this assignment. You have to come to me, say, this problem you marked off, here's why you shouldn't have. And best yet, Gradescope has a system for doing this, so we'll take care of that all in Gradescope. The other thing is that if you choose to dispute anything on a particular assignment, I automatically obtain the right to dispute all other grading on that assignment to make sure we didn't miss anything. So basically, I should do a whole video on this, but grading is an estimation problem. So basically, there's the systemic portion, which is that like the rubric tells us how to grade, and then there's the random variance of like a human element. As many mistakes as we make in your favor, we make in our favor. They all average out over time. But obviously, egregious things, if it happens, we need to correct. But so I'm sort of not, I don't lose sleep at night over like whether or not we did a half point extra for you or against you. I will say this, the biggest mistake we're going to make, although this isn't true anymore since we're using Gradescope, it's normally adding up points. So like I can't do arithmetic, which anyone knows that's seen me do Stat 400. So always check the grading just to make sure there's not like some egregious like, oh, we entered a 1 instead of a 10 or something. Like that's the kind of stuff we really don't want to have happen. This is the section that says don't cheat. Don't cheat. Some safety information. If you're a student that's registered with DRES, please get me your accommodation letter. Although actually, the more important person to get the accommodation letter to is not myself, but would be, let's see here, Carlene with the CBTF. So if you're a student that's registered with DRES, the CBTF will just take care of your scheduling of, say, extra time on exam, or whatever. They're excellent at this. They're very practiced at this. So talk to them. I mean, talk to me, but then for exams, I will have to direct you to them because I don't schedule it, they do, which is great for both of us technically because there's a web interface for you to do it. Oh, so I have this little bit here called the extended syllabus, which is this piece of writing on my website. It's just kind of some thoughts about how I approach education, some maybe tips and tricks for you, something to think about. Have a look. This section of the syllabus says I can do whatever I want. That's not really what it says, but I call this the Darth Vader clause, meaning that the syllabus is sort of a contractual deal that we enter into, and I'm allowed to change it. If I do change it, I'll let you know. I'm not going to try to trick you or anything, but just know that the syllabus is a living document and it can change. Okay. Back to the website. So first thing on the website is let's talk about homework 1, which is up already. There's no content in terms of videos yet, but more on that in a second. So here's homework 1. It looks like this. So I want to highlight a few things. So first of all, the general directions. Each homework assignment will be 10 exercises for a total of 10 points. And I have a what I call 0, half, 1 grading scale. It's a pretty simplistic grading scale, but I find that it becomes a very objective grading scale. It's very easy for the grader to complete their grading assignment, and I generally find that students don't take issue with the grading with this grading scale. It's very straightforward. So basically, the way this works is if you don't answer the question, you get 0. If you write something that has no relevance to the question, you get 0. if you write something that is wrong, but it shows that like you know at least partially what you needed to know to complete the question, you get a half point. If you get the question right and it's it has the supporting work to support your answer, it's reasonably formatted so that the grader can like see what you're doing, and you sort of like draw attention to the final answer if there's such a thing. Like there's not with a proof, but with a calculation there is. So box that final answer. If you do all those things, you get 1 point. This will be pretty straightforward in the end. But so that's the grading scale. On an exam, there'll be much more wiggle room for partial credit. Things will be worth many more points. But for the sake of homeworks, it's going to be this pretty cut and dry system. Like I said, we're going to submit to Gradescope. So homeworks will be due at 11:59 p.m. on Fridays, Champaign time. But you'll have the rest of the weekend to submit, so another 48 hours for a 2-point late penalty. And then after that, no late work. Like I said, grade disputes have to happen within the Gradescope system within 1 week of us releasing the grades back to you. So Gradescope is new to me, and the logistics of it I don't fully understand because I've never used it as a student. Well, that's not true. I asked a colleague to put me into their class and we played with it a little bit, but I'm not super well versed. But the hope is that you're able to create a single PDF of all your work and upload it. So my hope is that we can help each other with that. So I created a specific Piazza thread where you can, if you have like a great system, be like, oh, I really know how to make this PDF. Let us know about it so we can all learn from your expertise. This says don't cheat. So basically, my take here is any conversation you have about the homework that takes place in spoken word, be it the English language or whatever language preference you have for speaking with your classmates, that's fine. But if I, classmate A, go to classmate B and say, hey, can I compare my piece of paper to your piece of paper? That's when you enter a gray area. One more thing. So I take the position that I want you to do these problems the way any researcher would attack these problems. I mean, obviously a researcher is not going to grab a textbook and be like, oh, let's grind through problems. But they're going to encounter some of these sorts of issues. Researchers aren't limited by some like pen, paper, and graphing calculator limitation. Like why limit yourself like that? A researcher will have a statistical computing environment. A researcher will have a numerical integral solver or even an algebraic type system. So you can use those things too. So what I'm saying is, on your homework, you can use R. You can use Wolfram Alpha. You can use Symbolab. Go for it. On the exam, also fair game. This isn't a class about taking derivatives and solving integrals. This is a class about not even doing statistics, but understanding statistics, and those things just get in the way, and I don't want that to be a part of this. So go crazy. I think you'll find that I'm not too good at solving integrals myself, so I would be sort of lying to you if I said you need to be very good at solving integrals. Okay, so the next thing here is a list of practice exercises. It's an extremely large list on homework 1. They probably won't all look like this. You don't have to do all these, but I would page through them, look at them, be like, oh, I know how to do that. Oh, I know how to do that. If you encounter one that's a bit of a mystery to you, maybe spend some time on it, because these are essentially things that I would have expected you to be able to do after Stat 400 or 410. Yeah. Oh, and then so questions of this difficulty could appear on the exam, just as sort of a way to reduce the variability in grades. Because if you have like an exam with like 3 really difficult problems, that creates too much variance in final grades. So I would insert some of these sort of like mechanical, easy questions just to stabilize the variance a little bit. maybe more on that general idea as we talk about statistical inference, but that's the idea. Okay, so then you have the actual problems themselves. They're broken down by exercises here. One thing you'll notice is that there are actually, we'll probably do a bit of computation on each homework, mostly like simulation to verify a result until we learn about things like Bootstrap, where we'll be using it to actually perform some statistical analysis. So we're going to be language agnostic in this class, meaning like you use whatever language you're most comfortable with: R, Python, MATLAB, Julia, preferably not SAS, but you get the point here. You know, you want access to something where you can do sort of programming and simulation type stuff. So this is, to me, this is the part where it becomes difficult to potentially get one nice PDF. So one strategy would be to use R Markdown, write up all your answers in tech, and then do these computing problems just inside that document. I think what most people are going to do is, you know, write their homework by hand, scan it via, you know, you can find a scanner app for your phone or something, create a PDF of that, then say use a system like R Markdown or something to do this problem, and then find a PDF merge program that puts them together. I know that's complicated, but I'm actually pretty confident that we can all accomplish that. But again, if you're struggling with that, post in that Piazza thread. If you have a good system for that, post in the Piazza thread. Okay, and then the last thing is this exercise 11, which I call BYOQ, bring your own question. So I think something that really shows mastery of a subject is the ability to teach a subject. So that's something I've really come to believe, having taught for the past 5-6 years. I'm getting old. Anyway, so basically I want to give you an opportunity to sort of write your own question and solution. So this will do a bunch of things. One, it'll sort of like test how well you really know the material. And then two, it will provide potentially interesting content for the class. So I'll probably pick some of these and do them myself in a video for everyone to see and talk about sort of like what came up in this question, or they might get assigned as future practice problems. And if it's really, really, really good, I might ask you if I can use it in a future homework. But I think this will sort of benefit everyone. There's some caveats to what counts. Like if you just pick up a book and take a question from it, nope, that doesn't count. And you'll lose a point because I am very good at searching the internet. And then the other thing is like, don't just change a constant in some existing problem. Like make a reasonable attempt to come up with an original question. Not easy to do, you'll find. But if you do this, you get what's called a buffer point. So I have this aversion to extra credit. I loathe it. I hate it. But buffering is something I like. So let's say you get a 9 out of 10 on the problems, and then you submit your own question. It's accepted. Then you get a 10 out of 10. Great. Now let's say you got 10 out of 10, plus you submitted a question. So now you have an 11 out of 10, which at first sounds like extra credit, except the way buffer points work is that, I should write this into the syllabus, sorry. But the way buffer points work is that your homework subscore before it gets multiplied by this 60% can never be more than 100%. So buffer points only guard against loss points. They don't get you extra points. But it's still a good idea to do it because you can get like an 11, 11, an 11, and then a 7, and then you still have 100%. So basically it's just a way to hopefully push everyone towards that 100% on the homework. So I would encourage you to do this. If you have like preemptive questions about like, hey, will this count or not, you know, let me know. We can talk about it. Oh, okay. So now that was homework 1. Right. Okay. So last thing is talking a little bit about sort of broad scheduling based things. So if we come to the website here, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. We see that weeks 2 through 6 have a homework in them. Week 7 is a break, and then week 8 is an exam, then sort of another break. I mean, break just means you don't have an assignment to submit. There will be like videos and stuff. Excuse me. And then we repeat that process. Week 10 through 15 has a homework in it. Week 16 is like a recap, get ready. And then week 17 is when the final exam will be. So, 5 homeworks, break, exam, 5 homeworks, break, exam. But then let's talk more about intra-week scheduling. And I want to sort of work backwards from homework. Okay, so homework 1 is due on September 4th, which we can verify, right? Right. Okay, cool. So that'll be based on week 2 content. So I have the readings posted already. I'll be posting the videos soon. And then here's like the relevant office hours. So we sort of think of this as all week 2 content. But in terms of rollout schedule for that content, the week 2 content will appear during week 1. So my goal is to, in the Wednesday of the week before the homework, release all the content for that homework. So again, if this assignment is due in the Friday of this week, my hope is to release all the content in the Wednesday of this week, and at the latest, the Friday. So that'll always give you at least 1 week to do the homework with the hope of more. So the way I sort of hope that this goes is that, so I release all of the week 2 content during the Wednesday of this current week, week 1. And then you work on it for, a week or whatever, have your questions ready for office hours, make your final modifications, and then submit on that following Friday. So that's kind of my conception for how this is going to go. I'm hoping that we can stick to that. Who knows? Sorry, it's a new semester. I'm not used to talking so long at once. My throat's getting dry. Yeah, so that's the idea. The website, again, it's kind of your one-stop shop for everything. You can just be like, oh, well, I need to work on homework 1. It's in this week. Well, here's all the stuff I need to do it in that week. I have that office hours schedule in the syllabus, but we'll always post the specific one on the website because, things are bound to come up. We'll have to shift something 1 hour, 1 week here or there. So you can always find it there. With respect to readings, anything from LW, that's from Larry Wasserman's All of Statistics, that's required reading. The ER reading, that's again Evans and Rosenthal. Again, there's a free link to it in the syllabus. That's optional reading. So the Wasserman book is sort of concise. Like, it's very concise, which I love. But if you want a little bit more detail, Evans and Rosenthal will have sort of the nitty-gritty mechanical details of like doing problems and stuff. So that might be particularly useful. Okay, I've been talking for a while. There's links up here. We talked about Piazza. We talked about Compass. You won't really need to go there. Talked about Gradescope. The first assignment is not up on Gradescope yet because I didn't intend to release it for a few days, but I wanted to put the assignment up so I could talk about it, but it will be there. And then please do read the syllabus. It's so important that I made it a reading in week 0 and in week 1. I might even add it to week 2. Who knows? I find that reading a syllabus is very important. Okay. I think that's it. I've rambled for 45 minutes. Future videos should not be that. Well, I don't want to make that promise. But they won't be boring like this. They'll be content-based, not me talking about the syllabus and whatnot. Okay, so I never know how to end one of these videos. So what I always say is, if you made it to the bitter end, good job, and I'll see you in the next one.